Hello, students. This is Professor Bonaparte, and I will talk today about Chapter 1, a Principle of Macroeconomics, 9th edition by Greg Mankiw. Greg Mankiw is a professor in finance. I met him in person, and he has a very nice paper about the consumption of stockholder and the consumption risk of stockholders, and he tried to solve a puzzle called the equity premium puzzle. I think he might get Nobel Prize. So he's a smart person. That's the reason I chose the book. Chapter 1, the principle of economics. Economics came from a Greek world, and the idea is how we optimize decision and how society faced many decisions to allocate resources. Remember, at the personal level, you have to make decision. Society, government, also they make decision. The principle of economics, part 2, resources are scarce. So we have a limited resources. I'm talking about time, human capital, people, oil and gas, all the resources we use, minerals. So they're very limited. Technology, very limited. So we need to allocate how much to spend in this, how much in this. How people make decision. The key decision we make is usually when to wake up. And once you wake up, you start making decision how you want to start your day, writing emails, or you want to do talking to people or straight to your work. So have coffee, relax. So you start making every day like tens of decisions, sometimes more, depends how you're busy is your day. So if you will group them, it's basically work, buy, save, invest, consumption, saving, decision. Now, people face a trade-off. There are 4 principles we're going to talk about it. Trade-off, like I teach you economics, you pay tuition, and from the tuition I get salary. Or you go to Whole Food, you buy products and services, fruits, meat, and then they give you, and you pay with your plastic card, which is a Visa card or MasterCard or PayPal. So that's a trade-off. Rational people think at the margin. What they mean, rational people, most people are rational. The question is, how do you see rationality? Like, for example, you didn't see you say this person is not rational. Well, you didn't know the entire picture. You see 90% of what that person. So we need to be careful about rational people. But the idea here is if you think a lot, you make decision at the margin. And people respond to incentives. It's easy. If there is a salary, you like your job more. Principle 5, trade can make everyone better off. Yeah, you will trade only if you think you're going to be better off, but there is a regret in behavioral finance. If you take my class, there is something called regret. Usually when you buy something, you regret that. It takes you 2-3 days and then you forget about it. And then government can sometimes improve market outcomes. Sometimes it's better than not, but sometimes. The principle of economics, part 6. I want to talk about number 9. Prices rise when the government prints too much money. It's important to understand what we mean by government. The president or the Congress doesn't print money. The Federal Reserve print the money, and the Federal Reserve has the power to print money. And the Federal Reserve, it's a government, but independent from the branches, the legislative or the executive branches. Once you appoint the Federal Reserve chairman, the chairwoman or chairperson will decide how much money to print. And yes, if the Federal Reserve print a lot, then we have inflation. About society faces a short-term trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Yes, how the government causes inflation? The government causes inflation not by printing money, as it's a principle 9, by deficit. So when Joe Biden or Trump and before Obama, Clinton, Bush, all of these guys, all of them, all the presidents, they increase the debt. So they sell bond and they take the money from the bond because American people don't like to pay taxes. They say don't pay taxes. Here's a bond, they sell it, debt. They take money and they try to spend it on us, and we like that. Now, there is a limit for the debt. That's something we're going to talk about it. Yes, when the government, how government can make inflation? When they sell a lot of bonds, taking a lot of debt, and start doing infrastructure, which is a good project, infrastructure. Good. So what happened then? What happened is the contractors work with the government, and if you want to do remodeling to your home, you cannot find a contractor. What happens then? You have to pay higher prices. So the demand increases and inflation increases. So making decision require trade-off between goals against another. Like for example, you want to be relaxed, have good time, or you want to work, which is not convenient time for you. Going to vacation 5 days and spend 10,000, or going to vacation 3 days, spend 5,000 and have more time to work. So there's a trade-off you have to make between two options, work or leisure. So when we make our decision, we think about efficiency. Efficiency is something interesting. People think they are efficient, but they're not. Efficiency usually to make more in the same time to make a lot. That's efficiency. For a given time to make a lot. But also efficiency sometimes not to make it's also efficiency. That's a separate topic. But for now, society is getting the maximum benefit from its scarce resources. Quality, distributing economic prosperity uniformly among members of society. Now this is big things, equality. And how the pie is divided. So who needs equality? Rich people don't need equality, they're rich. The equality has to go to the people who are in need for more. So that's a role for the government, actually. And people don't like it, some people like it, which is take from the rich, give it to the poor. But here, you have to understand that the rich cannot be rich without the rest of the people. So there is a social debate here. I don't want to go through it. It's not the scope of this. Efficiency and equality trade-off, I talked about it. So how we do the cost is opportunity cost. For example, if I work 3 hours, for example, more, so what's my opportunity cost? My opportunity cost, for example, to be with my friends or with the family. So which is a leisure, good thing. So you have to equate this with that. So that's called it opportunity cost. Leisure versus labor. How people make decision, think at the margin. Again, I talked about rational people. I mean, again, rational, the word rational, we have to be careful with the word rational because a lot of people misuse it. People, yeah, almost everybody is rational, but you didn't see their the full picture. But the idea is systematically and purposely do the best they can to achieve their objective. Again, for example, let's go to rational decision. If somebody doesn't want to work, you think, oh, it's not rational, you should work. Well, sometimes not to work is good. You need to reflect and think, and maybe I have to go to college. So again, we have to be careful. But the idea of rational is you make the best for yourself. Now, yourself is now and another 50 years or 40 years or 30 years, depends how much you see your career develop. So then from now to 30 years is a lot of uncertainty. How to make decisions is not easy. How people make decision. So the idea is we need water, but it's cheap to survive, but it's cheap. But that's because we have a lot of water. Diamond, we didn't need it, but it's expensive. It's because we didn't have a lot of diamonds. So you have to understand the supply and demand of this preparation for the next chapter. Now incentives, sometimes like buyers consume less, sellers produce more, something that includes a person to act. Like for example, if you wanna, one of the reason the Soviet Union collapsed in the early 90s or late 80s is there is no incentive in their economy. Russia now they have a lot of very good agriculture now, Russia. But back then, 1990, they used to import agriculture products. And that's amazing. How on earth that happened? And that because there is no incentives. So incentives is basically the seller, you say, listen, I'll give you a good price. Then the seller will start to produce more. That's an incentive. For public policy, one incentive could be change cost or benefit, change people behavior. For example, when you cut taxes, you expect them to do something. When you increase taxes, you prevent them from smoking or buying alcohol. That's examples for incentive. Here is example by Sam Piltman, if you want to read it. So the trade always make everybody better off. Ex ante, you think this trade is gonna make you better off, but sometimes there are winners and losers from a trade. Exposed ex ante before you make the trade, exposed after you make the trade. Now here we go to markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity, and this has to do with Adam Smith, the Capital. By the way, Adam Smith, it's a British physicist, not economist. He was teaching the kids of the French king Louis. So he wrote the Capital book. He saw how things move in France and UK. At the same time, we have a Karl Marx was doing also. Karl Marx, I think it's a German guy, not Russian. People think Karl Marx is Russian. Lenin is Russian, and but Karl Marx, I think, is a German. He talked about the economy and government, the role of government. Now, Adam Smith and Karl Marx have the same goal, which is equality in the economy. Because when you have equality, you can have the best for the economy. Everybody has opportunity. But neither Karl Marx nor Adam Smith achieve equality. The idea of capitalism is will take you to equal opportunity. If you mix capitalism with democracy, we hope that will take you to equal opportunity. In America, we have democracy. We have free speech, not democracy. That's something different. And we have capitalism, some degree, not perfect capitalism, but still we don't have equal opportunity. So the market will allocate resources based on the need of the people, and the market economies, which means let the economy by itself heal itself, decide to make the allocation. Oh, here we go. Adam Smith, invisible hands. He's very famous with the invisible hands. That means that government should not be involved. The market by itself correct itself. And I want to talk to a little bit here. Yes, Adam Smith is right, invisible hand, and I agree with them, and that's the way to go, and that's the reason Russia collapsed, Soviet Union collapsed, I should say, which is it was not communism in Russia, it was something else. We still need government. One, in the US, I'm going to give you 3 examples. The government, if it wasn't a government, we cannot win. Number 1, which is very recent, is Manhattan Project with the nuclear bomb. If we did not do it, probably Russia or Germany did it before us, and then maybe we under the occupation of the Soviet or the German. So we need to do Manhattan Project. Who can do this big project? Private sector cannot do it. Only the government can do it. So you need a government. Number 2, this is people didn't know that. Now we have a cellular phone, but before that we have a landline. If the government did not do the infrastructure for the landline phones, we never will take us more years to get to the cellular phone, because it become to be we need the phone. The government did the infrastructure, the electricity and cable phone, and then it was a market. Then the private sector say, wait a second, I can do it better than the government, but I need to use the government infrastructure. So we need government. We still need government, and the market cannot heal itself always. And the invisible hands work, yes, in most cases work, but we still need the government. Now, I am libertarian, the less the better government. But libertarian are not winning anything in America, that's fine. But some cases we need government, but most cases I didn't support to have government. I against regulation, but I am, that's opinion. I have the right to have my opinion. So strict control in the market for taxes, regulation. I don't like that in person. People like it, and they have a majority. Republican and Democrat are both support government regulation. Otherwise, why they're in Congress if they didn't support. Now they support, Democrats support here, but not there. Republicans support there, but not here. That's the difference between them. All right. So here's example of government, sorry, market power. Uber, when they shut down the yellow cab, I remember the yellow cab vividly. I didn't see them anymore on the road. So here's a case study about Uber. If you want to read it, that would be nice. I'm gonna go on try to go quickly to part 7. Property rights. This is important. Do you know that to have a patent in this country, it costs you $20,000 to $30,000, and you need a lawyers in this. So property rights, it's only for not everybody can have a property rights, and this is a problem, and that's hurt economic growth. Market failure. In 2008, it's a classic failure of the economy when the collapse of banks. I think this is interesting case to study banks. They're out of liquidity. They have asset and paper, but they didn't have it. It has no value. Market failure, the government has to involve. Basically, what happened, George Bush did a bailout, but most of the money paid by the Federal Reserve. Externality, when you do damage, you didn't feel it, but your neighbor hurt by that. Or if you do pollution in a river or through something in a river, other people who drink the water will not have a fresh water. So that's externality case. Impact of one person action on the other, well-being of bystander. Pollution is example. And we need to have an incentive system to have a less pollution, and then we'll have less externality. Market power, ability of a single economic actor. Part 9 is disparities in economics well-being and government intervention, public policy aim to achieve more equal distribution. So that's again, sometimes, I mean, this is good. Yes, the government can do aim to achieve more equal distribution, but sometimes the government screwed up things. So in the net, you decide whether you need a big government or not. Standard of living. So basically, in every city, there is a standard of living index that measure average salary relative to the average cost of rent and food and gas. Like when I was in California, the gas in California was expensive. Although Los Angeles port can import a lot of gasoline. But some of it has to do with externalities, taxes and this kind of stuff. But the cost of living in California is expensive, but also the opportunities are good, the salaries are good. So you have to equate average salary with cost of living. Income growth 2% historically in the United States historically. Now, when the inflation was 9%, most of us become to be less rich. Productivity is a quantity of goods and services produced from each unit of labor or capital. And then we're gonna here talk about prices rise when the government prints too much money. We talked about that. The government doesn't print, Biden doesn't print, Congress doesn't print money, Federal Reserve print money, but government can cause inflation by selling a lot of bonds, take the money, and make projects. Some project you like, so maybe in the net you like it. Society faces a short-run trade-off between inflation and employment. Yeah, we like everybody to have a job, but then if everybody has a job with high inflation, then everybody become to be poor. When I say poor, like poorer, I mean, if you have $1 million and inflation go up 10%, your $1 million become to be worth 900,000 because you cannot buy the same $1 million what you buy a year ago. Your $1 million now, a year after, become to be equal to 900,000 a year ago. So trade-off between unemployment and inflation, and then there is something called Keynesian economics. And that Keynesian economics was post-World War II, when they said, government, please print a lot of money so they can rebuild the countries. Europe was destroyed, basically. So it worked for a while in the 50s, but then neoclassical taking control. So that's a principle of economics, how people make decisions, how people interact, how the economy as a whole works. You will have the slides, you have my video also. And I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you so much. And see you in the next lecture.